That is wild. Wild, bro. I thought I was prepared for this and I am not. That is something else. That's something else. Yep. That's something else. Truly something else. Okay. But welcome back. Welcome to the Pryce Podcast. We're here, culture, clash. And like I said before, we're going to be talking about probably one of the most dangerous, blood soaked, and economically suicidal ideas ever cooked up by the human mind: socialism. Yes, I said it. Socialism. The most dangerous, blood soaked, and economically suicidal ideas ever created by a human. Don't know how it came forth. I'm, not, I'm just like, bro, what? Anywho, no sugarcoating, no polite hedging, or yeah, no polite hedging, no false equivalent. Socialism is not a noble experiment that just hasn't been tried right. Right? Stupid to say that. It has been a proven destroyer of wealth, liberty, innovation, and human life itself. Tonight, I'm laying out the receipts: historical, economic, moral, and cultural, so you can see exactly why every single time socialism gains power, it turns abundance into scarcity, freedom into chains, and hope into despair. Now, so one thing I will tell you, um, yeah, socialism, communism, Marxism, they're a complete drain to human life. Tonight we'll be talking about socialism. Next week we'll get into communism. The week after that, Marxism. And we'll also be talking about capitalism and why, to me, honestly, the best system, the best ever, biggest one ever, the best it's ever gonna be. That was my best Trump impression. I'm working on it, okay? I'm working on it. But honestly, why I think capitalism is the best system so far, right? Just so far. Now, haven't really seen a whole lot, or there hasn't really been any other system yet, but we're getting there. We are getting there. Whew. And I do apologize. Um, pollen has killed me, and I work outside, so yeah, I'm trying my best, But if you guys see me have this, pull it up to my nose, you know why. Pollen is my arch enemy outside of socialism. Socialism. But let's start with what socialism actually is, because the left loves to play word games. Them and them words. Socialism is the public or collective ownership of the means of production: the factories, the farms, the land, the capital, the currency, the money, everything. It rejects private property in the tools that create wealth and replaces voluntary exchange with central planning. The state, or the people's representatives, decide what gets made, how much gets made, who gets whatever is being made, and what the price is of what it is being made. And that's it. That's the core. Obviously, you could tell something is very, very, very wrong. Me, I believe in private property. What I own is what I own. Now, I am not really a whole materialistic type of guy, but I mean, if what I have is what I have, like this mic right here, I bought this. This is my mic. I have another mic right here. I bought this. My mic. I have another mic right here. I bought this. Is my mic. My phone I bought. My iPad I bought. Like everything here I bought. So if you're trying to tell me that everything that I have is not mine and it's everybody's, how does that? Honestly, why should I work? Why? If I don't own anything, why should I contribute to anything? And that's what the left doesn't really understand. Especially people my age and younger. I see that a lot. I'm just so you guys know, I'm 25 years old. Turn 26 next month. Literally almost in 1 month. After tomorrow, or tomorrow, it'll be 1 month until my birthday. But I see this from a lot of Gen Zs, uh, millennials. Hopefully, we can catch Gen Alpha before they get indoctrinated with this BS. Anywho, to me, the way how I see socialism. So before we get into everything, the way how I see socialism, if everything that gets done is distributed out equally, then what is the incentive for people to do anything? If somebody who works very, very hard, does tends to the fields all day, and there's a guy who's just sitting down, smoking weed, drinking, or whatever they do, not doing anything, and yet I have to share what I did with him, but he didn't do anything to get stuff. So it's just like, you know, like, no. I work for what I work for. If he didn't work for nothing, he gets nothing. I don't really care. I don't care about him. If he wanted to do nothing, all right, that's him. Let him take responsibility for that. But for me, I'm going to, if whatever I did, it is mine. Okay? Mine. All right? Call it greedy, whatever. It doesn't really matter. Whatever you want to call it. Now, every flavor, Marxist Leninist, Maoist, Democratic Socialist, first century socialism, all flow to the same poisonous root. Capitalism, by contrast, is simply the recognition that individuals have the right to own what they create or trade for, to keep the fruits of their labor. It says it in the Bible. And to risk their own capital in the pursuit of profit. Prices emerge from millions of voluntary decisions. Profit and loss tell producers what society actually values. Another thing about socialism. Now I'm reading basic economics, and one of the first, in the very first chapter, like first 55 pages, it really does explain really socialism compared to what I think it gives you the Soviet Union and compare it to capitalism. Right? And it gives you those examples of what it means in different economic systems. Great book. Highly recommend you read it. I still need to continue reading that book, but it's a great book, okay? A great book. Anyway, that system, capitalism, flawed, messy, unequal in outcomes, but it has lifted more human beings out of poverty than any other system, especially socialist regime. But we'll get to the numbers. Ooh, yeah. Pollen killing me. Sheesh. Now the theory. Why does socialism collapse every single time? There has not been a time where socialism has worked. The left tries to tell you, oh, because it hasn't been tried right. No, socialism does not work whatsoever. To Australian economics, buried in a century ago, and the body count since then is just confirmation. First, Ludwig von Mises and the economic calculation problem. Without private property and genuine market prices, central planners have no rational way to allocate every single resource. Especially scarce resource. There's no way to allocate any of that. See what needs to be. Yeah. And they can't know whether building a tractor factory is worth more than building a hospital, or whether steel should go for cars or to plows. They can't account for every single opportunity. Prices are not arbitrary numbers. They're singles carrying dispersed knowledge about scarcity, demand, and alternatives. And in basic economics, the very first chapter tells you all about that. Highly recommend you read it. Now, take away private ownership, and those signals vanish. You're left with the bureaucrats guessing in the dark because they're no experts in everything. And the results shortages, surplus, and waste on a biblical scale. Complete waste. Frederick Hayek added the knowledge problem. The information needed to run an economy exists in billions of fragments in the minds of workers, farmers, engineers, consumers, changing minute by minute. No committee, no supercomputer, no 5-year plan can ever gather or update that knowledge fast enough. Central planning is literally impossible. Cannot happen whatsoever, especially with human beings like us. Yes, we are flawed, 100%. The only system that aggregates and acts on that knowledge is the price system of free markets. Okay? Socialism tries to replace it with corrosion and ends up starving people instead. Like I said before, a central planning agency, central bureaucrats, whatever you want to call it, cannot account for every single scarce resource and to allocate it to the right jobs, to the right people, to the right, whatever you want to call it. Right. Now, then there's the incentive problem. So this is what I was talking about beforehand. The problem, the incentives, right? If people go to work, people do work, right? And then they have to share their labor, the results of their labor, the fruits of their labor, to somebody who didn't do anything, or share it out equally to everybody. Then what is the incentive for them to keep working if everything they gets sent out everywhere? Hoo hoo hoo. Human beings responds to incentives. Under capitalism, you get rewarded for serving others. Produce what they want, and you profit. Simple. Under socialism, the reward is political favor, and the punishment is the gulag. Why innovate when the state owns the patent? Why work hard when your neighbor gets the same ration card no matter what, no matter if he worked, no matter if they did less work than you, no matter if they did more work than you, everybody gets the same. So, what is the incentive to do anything? Really? What or why take risks when failure means you're labeled an enemy of the people? The tragedy of the commons on steroids. Factories get stripped for parts. Farms collapse. Black markets thrive. And the most ruthless climb to the top. Hayek called it the road of serfdom. For a reason. To enforce equality of outcome, you must crush liberty. And the worst always gets on top. The worst people. Now, let's look at the body count so the morale rot sinks in. Because you guys have to really think about this. The Black Book of Communism tallies roughly 100 million deaths directly attributed to socialist and communist regimes in the 20th century alone. So from the 1900s to 2000s, we have over 100 million deaths due to socialism and communism. That's not war deaths or national disasters. That's deliberate policy. In the Soviet Union, under Lenin and Stalin, engineered famines like a Holodomor that killed 5 to 10 million Ukrainians. The Gulag system that swallowed another 20 million. Purges, executions, man made hell. Mao's China, the Great Leap Forward, starved 30 to 45 million people. The Cultural Revolution added millions more. You guys get what I'm going from, right? But guess what? I'm not done. Oh my gosh. Pol Pot's Cambodia. A quarter of the population murdered in under 4 years for the crime of being educated or owning glasses. Cuba, North Korea, Ethiopia, Angola. Everywhere the red flag flew. Mass graves followed. 100 million corpses in the 20th century. The 1900s for all those who don't know. That is not a rounding error. That is the logical outcome of treating human beings as raw material for the planner's utopia. What's the point of having a utopia if you're the only one there? Now take Venezuela as the most recent, most undeniable case study. Now Trump did a very good job there. He took Maduro out of there. Thank God. In under an hour and a half. Wow. In 1999, it was the richest country in Latin America. The richest. Sorry if that offended some of the Latinian or Mexican or Spanish speaking people. Did not mean to do that. I actually don't know why that came out. Anywho, largest proven oil reserves on the earth. GDP per capita higher than Spain. Thriving middle class. Modern cities. Immigrants flowing in. And not illegal either. Then Hugo Chavez, and later Nicolas Maduro imposed 21st century socialism. They nationalized oil, seized farms and factories, over 600 companies expirated. Fired the competent engineers, weird, at PDVSA and replaced them with party loyalists. Price controls, currency controls, wealth distribution at gunpoint. Think about that. Yeah, if you guys thought that Venezuela was great in the 1900s, yeah, but once Chavez and Maduro came in, oof, dictators, I will say, very, very, very dictators. The results: oil production cratered. Now, give you guys a little bit of history. The U.S. had a deal with Venezuela to crank oil, okay? Now when obviously Chavez Maduro came in, took over, that they stole the oil. They stole what we were getting, what we were paying for, right? It was ours, they stole it. Okay, we're gonna get it back. That's why we took Maduro. All right, my boy, you're done. Anywho, hyperinflation hits over 130,000% in 2018. 130,000%. Hyper, like that wild numbers. And Americans right now today are complaining about the inflation nowadays. No, yes, you guys, you guys can complain about that. You guys complain whatever you want. I think it's also one of the reasons why I haven't bought a house yet, even though I really want to buy a house. Um, but back in 2018, with over 130,000% of hyperinflation, we do not compare. GDP, I always for some reason get that wrong. GDP shrank more than 75% between 2014 and 2021. 7 years. It tanked. 90% of the population plunged into poverty. People lost an average of 24 pounds just from hunger. Hospitals ran out of medicine. Electricity failed for days. Corpses piled up in morgues because the power was off. 7 to 8 million refugees fled the socialist paradise. Roughly a quarter of the pre-collapse population, the ones that survived, were able to actually make it to the other side. This wasn't bad luck. This was socialism doing exactly what it always does. Turning an oil-rich nation into a basket case with the ruling elite, or while the ruling elite got fat. And I will say, I remember there's a video out there where Maduro, what are those things called? I think it was during a press conference or whatever, where what are those things called? I can't remember. But it was food, obviously. And, as he ate, or he ate while his people starved. Great job, Maduro. Great job. Yep. Let me not say that because I have some words for you. I have some words. Now, before the left says, but what about Nordic countries? Stop. Sweden, Norway, Denmark, Finland are not socialist. They are capitalist economies with high taxes funding generous welfare states. Private property is, sorry if I mispronounce this, Sacronesque. Businesses are privately owned. They scare near to the top of economic freedom indices. Sweden tried heavy socialism in the 1970s and 80s, saw capital flight, stagnation, and rising unemployment, then reversed course toward freer markets and cuts. Their success proves markets work. Their welfare is paid by capitalism wealth creation. Calling them socialists is like calling a steak dinner vegan because it has a side salad. All right. And yes, that is the definition. I'm going with it because it is true. Now, the cultural rot. Socialism doesn't just wreck economies. It doesn't. Trust me, it doesn't. It doesn't. It warps the human soul. It does a lot worse, okay? A lot worse. It replaces the voluntary bonds of family, church, community, and contract with the states as the ultimate parent, provider, and moral authority. So now they're trying to replace God at this point. Sorry, but no humans are gods. There's only one God. And he's the one I serve. It breeds envy as a political virtue. How? One of the 7 mortal sins. Apparently, it's a virtue now. What? You didn't build that. It punishes success and stabilizes failure. Work ethic collapses, birth rates plummet because children become economic liabilities instead of blessings. They've gone the reverse of what God calls us to do. Dependency replaces dignity. In every socialist experiment, the family weakens, faith is persecuted, and the state becomes God. Look at the Soviet Union war for the kulaks. Mao's attack on Borgia's culture. Or today's Venezuela, where even the church is targeted when it speaks against the regime. Now with Maduro out, we got some great stuff, right? This is the culture clash in the purest form. Individualism and responsibility versus capitalism and corrosion. America's founding principles: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness are the antithesis or arch enemy or the opposite, however you want to call it, goes against socialism. Okay? 100%. The founders understood that rights come from God, not from them. Rights come from God and not from the state. Socialism flips that. Okay? The state grants privileges and can revoke them whenever the plan demands it. So, under a socialist regime, the socialism economic order, however you want to call it, destroys humans. That's just it. It destroys humans. Nothing more to it. It's a failure. Cannot survive. That won't survive. Will never succeed. It has always failed. No matter which point in time that you go to, if there's a socialist country, failed. I mean, you can look at the CCP now. Venezuela under Maduro and Chavez. China under Mao. The Soviet Union, led by Lenin and Stalin. I mean, we have examples after example after example after example of why socialism does not work. So why would you make it? Why would you try it out in the first place? Ludicrous to me. Very, very, very ludicrous. Now, the modern democratic socialism is the same snake, but with better marketing. Bernie Sanders, AOC, Gavin Newsom, the whole squad. They promise free college, free healthcare, the Green New Deal, universal basic income, wealth taxes, student debt forgiveness. Every single one of these policies attacks the price system, the incentive structure, or private property. No matter which way you look at it, it will demoralize people of working, make them be dependent upon the states and the government. They will care for people at the top. And the only way for you to get to the top is to, you know, yeah, uh, yeah. They don't care about the middle class. They don't care about the modern people. They only care about themselves. That is socialism in its finest. I mean, you have Bernie Sanders, AOC, Zoran Mandani, looking for it all, caring for it all. And honestly, I wouldn't let it go past James Tallarico. I would not. Yeah, yeah. That's all I can say. Yeah, print money for free stuff, and you get inflation that hits the poor the hardest. First of all, we already print too much money. Almost $40 trillion in debts, and you want to keep printing. Sure, makes a lot of sense. Tax capital and investment dries up. Naturalized healthcare and wait times explode while innovation stalls, or honestly, almost completely stops. We've seen previews in California's homelessness crisis, New York City's crime wave after socialist inspired bail reform, and cities where defund the police meets reality. Democratic socialism is just socialism with an election every 4 years. Until the election stop mattering. Because honestly, at that point, they can be like, oh, no, we got this now. We don't need an election. You just kind of going to vote for the same people over and over again. Yes, you can vote for me. Bernie says, I'll tax the rich. 25, 50, no, 90%. Yeah, yeah. Anywho, all of it does makes no sense whatsoever. Now, why does it keep coming back? Because it appeals to the darkest parts of human nature: envy, resentment, the desire for someone else to do the hard work. It flatters the lazy and punishes the ambitious, which should be the other way around. If you're gonna be lazy, you don't get anything. If you are ambitious, wait, but I had to phrase this like this: you are ambitious and working. Now, the harder you work, it really does, you know, bring it out. But if you're lazy, now you could be ambitious and lazy, but it's really the action. If you put it in the work, then you'll be you'll see the fruit of that labor. But if you don't want to put in the work, then you're gonna be out there in the streets. Just saying. Intellectuals love it because they imagine themselves as the planners. Young people fall for it when they haven't yet paid taxes or built anything. I'm glad I'm not one of them. But reality is merciless. Every time, and I mean every single time, socialism is tried, the same pattern repeats in an endless loop. Initial euphoria, shortages, scapegoating, authoritarian crackdown, and mass suffering. The only variable is how many bodies pile up before the regime falls or there's reforms. Only difference. The only only variable. The amount of bodies. Because in the 20th century alone, 100 million dead. 100 million. Come on now. The antidote is simple and radical. Return to first principles. Private property. Rule of law. Sound money. Voluntary exchange. Individual rights. Small and limited government. The system that dragged humanity from 90% extreme poverty in 1820 to under 10% today is not socialism. It's capitalism. However imperfect. Nothing human made is perfect. The only thing that could ever be perfect is God. Literally, the only thing ever made perfect. Look out in nature. How could all that come up? There was someone that made it, and he is like God. Anywho, the countries that liberalized markets, South Korea, Singapore, posting China, post 1991 India, saw explosive growth and millions lifted out of destitution. The countries that doubled down on central planning stayed poor or got poorer. That's the only difference. Free markets, you have explosive growth, millions of people gotten out of poverty. But central planning, it cannot account for every single little detail every single time. And if the markets are shaky, good luck. Man, yeah. Pollen today really got me. So here's the challenge for everybody listening. Reject the lie that more government controls equals more fairness. Demand policies that reward production, not redistribution. Teach your children the dignity of work, the morality of profit, and the danger of envy dressed up as justice. Defend the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the American experiment in ordered liberty. That's what we should defend. The Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and I would say the American way, the American dream. That's what we should really focus on. Socialism has failed everywhere, and it has tried because it is at war with human nature and economic reality. The 21st century does not need a new coat of paint on that corpse. It needs the courage to bury it for once and for all. Socialism does not work. Capitalism is the system that helps others. And there are a lot of people, especially part of the left, the Democrats, who spout about socialism being a great thing, that America should be socialist. And yet, they profit off of the capitalism system. Make sense? Yes? No. No, it does not. 100%. Does not make no sense whatsoever. But thank you for spending the time with me on the Culture Clash. That's all that I have for you guys. And I think next week we're definitely hitting communism. We'll definitely get to communism. Now, obviously, they are all the same. There are differences, but, we'll still get into it. But don't forget to stay free, stay vigilant, and keep clashing with the culture that wants to chain you. Now, before we head out, just want to say, the only way to break those chains is God and Jesus Christ. Now, I'm not going to sit here and try to get you guys to believe in him. That's a conversation you have to have with Jesus. But think on it. Really think on it. I truly do pray that more and more people do find him. They accept him. And their lives gets changed for him. My life did. Just saying. But this is Jonathan. Signing off for now. I'll be back next week, next Thursday at 7 p.m. The fight continues. Keep seeking the kingdom first. God bless every one of you, and thank you for being here. Don't forget to hit that like button. Follow the channel if you're new. Share this episode if this really got something in you. If you have that friend, that leftist that you know that really can at least hear something to open their eyes, let them. Let them hear. Thank you for being here. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.